my favorite movies look like this. Take this scene from The Mummy, for instance. Rumor has it that they didn't even light for this scene. The moon was just that bright in 1999. Last night, my wife and I watched Hook, and I hadn't seen it since I was a kid. It didn't really interest me then. I think it might be because I finally connect to Peter becoming a dad. But yeah, when I was a kid, it seemed kind of scary and confusing. Maybe I was just a little bit too little to watch it. But it reminded me of the movie lighting that I love. The whole story has this element of whimsy and wonder, and the whole thing feels wonderful, and it made me feel good watching it. And so I thought about the movies, like my all-time favorite movies. Indiana Jones, The Three Musketeers, The Mask of Zorro. All these classic films with classic lighting. And I realized that I want my movies to look like that. I want the stuff I make to have that sense of wonder and that depth and that sort of classic lighting. So I checked to see if I still got it, because sometimes I've been able to pull off lighting like this, but other times I have not. And so I wanted to check and see if I could still do it. And here's the result. I think it's pretty good. I would, if I could, I would have some negative fill right here to kind of absorb some of the light, but I think so far so good. Let me run you through what I did. Okay, so here we have a little, I think they're called GVM lights. I put one of those on a stand, one of them here, and then I put this little bar light up there so that I would get nice clean visual there. I threw this lamp in the corner for a little bit of depth. And then this bad boy over here, this is just a mega flashlight that I got for Christmas one year. And it works as an edge light pretty well. Whoa, my pen just flew apart. Oh no! A trend that I've been seeing in modern movies, sort of this flattening out and graying out of the image. I don't know why this has happened. There are people, like I've heard other people other than me notice that modern movies are looking a little bit flatter. And I think it's the aversion to shadow, maybe, that hard shadows can make somebody, they can be a little less flattering. And so in order to just stay flattering, the shadows are going away. But I think that shadows are an important part of an image because they create depth. And that's something I notice about these movies from the 80s and 90s, is that they have a lot more depth in the imagery, in the blocking, and in the lighting particularly. Some things that come to mind are some shots from the Terminator, or Terminator 2, where they're in a hallway. I'm just sort of imagining the image in my mind. They're in a hallway, and it has the three of them positioned in sort of a triangle, and then the hallway adds depth afterwards. I was also thinking about Ocean's 11, the part, and I really hope I'm getting these character names right, but it's the part where Danny and whatever Brad Pitt's character's name is. So George Clooney and Brad Pitt are trying to get not Saul. Dang it, I can't remember the names. Ruben. They're trying to get Ruben to get in with them on this heist. And they walk away from him and the camera moves with them, and then Ruben stops them. He walks up to the camera, or he walks up to them, and then the camera pushes in on him. And that creates great depth. And something else you can see in that movie and some of these other movies, another one that comes to mind is Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. You can see in that one that there is no aversion to just filming in sunlight and just picking the spots in the sunlight that looks the best. And if it doesn't look the absolute best, still keeping depth in the image with background or with focal length or whatever. And that's not to say that all modern movies look flat. There are quite a lot of movies that put in the effort to have scope and scale and depth. I really liked Project Hail Mary recently, and a lot of shots from that film have depth. And I didn't particularly note the lighting. I did think it was a beautiful film, but I didn't particularly note the lighting for any reason. But I can go back and check that out, look at stills and see if it does fit with what I'm talking about, where people aren't afraid of hard light, maybe even a little bit more theatrical lighting, like this edge light is what it's called. It creates this depth, but it seems much more tailored, much less naturalistic, maybe. And so people have kind of gone away from it because it's not real enough. But I think in filmmaking, it's okay. Like, where does the music come from? That's not real. The music, in some, there are some cases where it's diegetic, which means it's coming from something in the story world, like a radio, like the character turns on the radio and listens to some music or something. But most of the time, it's just something that is for the audience, and it doesn't affect the story world at all. The characters are oblivious to the film score. So I don't see any reason why lighting like this, where there's an edge light or a backlight, why that's so unpopular now. And I think it's time to bring it back. I think it looks good. I've thought a lot about capturing beauty, as I've talked about, or as I've thought about light and lighting. And I think that things are already beautiful, but sometimes the light will demonstrate that beauty. And something like an example is, we think that sunsets and sunrises are so beautiful, and it has a lot to do with the color, but I think it also has to do with the angle of the light, that we are on the shadow side. The light is coming this way, and we're on the shadow side of whatever it is we're looking at. And that's something I learned as I worked as a wedding videographer, that in order to add depth and create or capture beauty, if you go from where the shadow is, it will show the depth of whatever your subject is. And that's something that's getting more popular in videography and less popular in movies. Because this camera, it's a fine camera. It's a Canon EOS Rebel T6i, and from a while back, and it can get a little grainy sometimes. But with this lighting, the image still looks good. And I know that I could have done it differently, and it probably would still look good. I could turn the edge light off. Actually, I am going to turn the edge light off and see what it looks like. Let's do an experiment. Okay. This could be just as good. I'm sure, even though I haven't seen this image yet, I'm sure that it's a different feeling than when the edge light is on. So let's look at it again. It feels brighter this time. Holy cow. I think I accidentally turned it up. That's something nice about the flashlight, is it can only do cool light. It doesn't warm up or cool down. Obviously, because it's a flashlight, it's not a film light, but it's super bright, and you can turn it up and turn it down and intensify it, and there's the end, you can focus the beam more. So I have the beam pretty focused, and yeah, this seems brighter than it was before. I think I'm gonna move it back a little bit to see what that will look like. It's a little bit more edgy. Something in Raiders of the Lost Ark that I really like is there are a few moments where the light will just be across somebody's eyes, or they use shadows to tell the story. And it creates this Hollywood, well, no, Hollywood's the wrong word. It reminds me of Dracula, which is another movie I love, the 1931 Dracula. And it's whimsical is the only word that comes to mind. It's sort of fantastical. There's an uncanny feeling to the lighting when you're telling the story this way. Raiders of the Lost Ark and Dracula are both fantasy stories. They both have elements to them that are fantastical, whimsical, and uncanny. And the lighting tells that story. The lighting lets you into that world. A lot of modern films go with this low-key lighting style that feels more natural, and it makes the story world feel like real life. Dour or kind of downer. Downer is a better word. Have some downer elements to them. You can see in the sort of the color palettes and the lack of an edge light. They're not fantastical, they're not whimsical. You may have noticed by now this is not a heavily scripted video. Where I want to take this now is I want to take this to a filmic look. Something that a lot of filmmakers and videographers are trying to do right now is film emulation. They're trying to get their digital camera to look like film. And I think a missing piece of that is lighting. I think that matters because there's a lack of whimsy right now. The world feels a little bit bleak and disconnected. And something that happened last night when my wife and I were watching Hook was we became more connected through it. I've been pretty busy making this production company and working on Half-Life Eternity every single day, and it's taking up a lot of brain space. And she and I have still been connecting. We've been going on dates, we've been talking, but I felt like I wanted a deeper connection, like I needed to set aside some time to connect deeply. When we were able to watch this story that had whimsy and it had depth in the emotion, and it conveyed that in the imagery of the film and in the beauty of it, it connected us. It was a shared experience we had, and we both we both teared up a little bit. Maybe I cried, maybe I didn't, because the story was so beautiful. It was about a family, and it was about Peter Pan learning to fly again because he's a father. And that was the moment that moved me the most, was when he remembered his happiest memory, his happy thought was when his son was born. And that was just a really beautiful moment in the film. And I think Project Hail Mary is doing so well right now because it captures some of that beauty. It's about friendship. It's about finding someone who's not like you and learning to understand them and taking time to understand them. And I think that that's something that the world needs right now. is finding someone who you don't understand, who's different than you, and learning about who they are and connecting with them. And that's why I'm compelled to tell stories. I think it's because I value connection. And I don't know how this comes from lighting, but I think the lighting of a film can lift the mood. It can make it a little bit more whimsical, a little bit more fantastical. Think of how people are reacting to the new Harry Potter trailer and how it's gray and it's flat, and then compare that to the old Harry Potter. But I guess just to end my video on lighting, I guess the point is I want to make good-looking movies. A film is a whole. Okay. The performance, the lighting, the music, the way the camera moves, the way it's written, all of it comes together to mean something to the audience. And I think that that's what it's all about. I'm all for making something because you want to. I want to make Half-Life Eternity. It's for me. But as I'm making it, I'm trying to think about the audience. And I'm trying to think about what I can give to the world. Or to the world, at least to St. George, Utah. What I can give to my friends and family, what I can give to whatever audience I can grow. Part of that is looking back to these films that I love and trying to pull from them lessons that matter and that might mean something to other people. So, yeah, basically lighting your film is how you connect, how you get people to connect. Not really, but it's a piece of the puzzle, right? So, yeah, light your movies in cool ways. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.